Thank you for joining me again. I thought today what I would do is I would let you know another thing that I do with my time. So I do spend an awful lot of time writing, which means that my eyes get pretty tired. So a lot of the time I listen to audiobooks, but I review some for NetGalley. If you don't know NetGalley, that's a place where publishers and self-published people load their books for readers to get a free copy, an ARC copy, so that is an author review copy, and they can read it before the book is published in return for an honest review. And we post these reviews on various places. So I've in the past always posted my reviews on the Blonde Plotter website because I'm a member of that writing group, but I also post them on Goodreads. I also put them on NetGalley, and when reviews are on NetGalley, the publishers can then use quotes from them for promotion, for example on Amazon and that sort of thing. So it all helps. And one thing as an author I'm very aware of is the fact that the biggest problem you've got after writing your book is getting people to know that it's out there, because there's an awful lot of books published every single year. So when I do have time, sometimes it takes me longer than I would like, I will review a copy for another author. I sometimes am asked to review books to give a quote that can go on the cover, which is very exciting, or to be used in promotion, and I love doing that. Reviewing a book, reviewing an author's book is a great way to help spread the word. Massive way to support that author too. So I thought today I would read you two of my recent reviews that I've done. The first one I've literally posted the other day onto Goodreads. It is The Housewives of Atomic Lane by Andy Newton. I love Andy Newton's books, so when I was asked if I would like to read a copy, it didn't take me long to say, yes please, straight away. So I've read this book and I thought I would read my review to you so you can get an idea of what it was about and what I thought. So these reviews are not very long, but both these books are 5 stars. This book is out on the 7th of August. I've just finished reading this book set in the United States during the Cold War and loved it. I really did. The housewives who live on Atomic Lane spend their days running their homes, taking care of their husbands' needs and bringing up their children. Betty, Mahoney's daughter, is grown up and works away from home, and Betty is bored. She misses her daughter and fills her days chatting with her 3 closest neighbours and listening to the FBI radio shows at night, reporting back intriguing news, sort of like spies and that sort of thing, during her evenings. Above all, Betty is desperate for something interesting to happen on Atomic Lane. Then the newer neighbours, the Beckers, arrive. They move in opposite, and Betty can't help thinking there's something not quite right about Elizabeth Becker, despite her perfect appearance and immaculate home. Betty's husband reminds them of their need for secrecy, so he reminds Betty of her need for secrecy, as do the other wives' husbands, and not to gossip about imaginary things. But it isn't that easy for Betty to let go when she's sure her suspicions are right, but are they? This story was inspired by the author's family history, which was explained at the end of the book in the author letter. Absolutely fascinating. I loved that. And I'm quite jealous, actually, I'll admit that, of what I read there. It was fantastic. I loved this book, discovering how it must have been to live as one of those 1950s American women whose husbands' jobs working on a nuclear site necessitated absolute secrecy. So I found it to be clever, atmospheric, and intriguing, and definitely a must-read. And then, of course, when you do read for NetGalley, you go on to thank the publisher. In this case, it was one more chapter, and NetGalley for the art copy. The other book that I reviewed, that was recently, was The Lost Orphans of Lyon by Helen Paracel. Again, another historical fiction. I love historical fiction. As we know, I love writing it, but I also love reading it. So this book, it's about a hidden tunnel, 2 frightened children, and one woman who must risk everything. And it's set in Lyon during occupied France in 1942. So in my review, I say, The Lost Orphans of Lyon grabbed me from the first page and barely let me come up for breath until the very last word. Really, really did. Yvette's marriage to her charismatic husband has barely begun when they move into his recently inherited rundown chateau, where she discovers a hidden tunnel and 2 orphan children whose lives are at risk and who desperately need her help. She's forced to make a split decision whether to step into a terrifying world she has no experience of to save them, and does so. It's the first of many of her decisions that she will be faced with, each more terrifying and more treacherous than the last. It really ramps up the tension, this book. Marie is the young village girl whose life is completely different to Yvette's. She takes the children from this new châtelet to their next place of refuge, risking her life to protect them. 2 women with little in common, apart from their tenacity, bravery, and determination to protect others from the vicious Nazis occupying the area, must find their own ways to cope. Set in World War II in occupied France, as I said, this book was inspired again by a true story, which makes it all more poignant. It's also a potent reminder of the bravery and resourcefulness of ordinary people determined to survive against seemingly impossible odds. And I found it to be an expertly woven story that I highly recommend. Again, another 5 stars. And that publisher was Boldwood. So, and again, it was for a NetGalley review. So those are my 2 reviews for today. I will give you another few soon, because I always have a book on the go, be it a paperback, ebook, or an audiobook, which is what I mostly listen to, as I said. And I hope you enjoyed those reviews. So yes, if you're interested in finding... The Lost Orphans of Lyon by Helen Paracel is out now. And you can pre-order Andy Newton's The Housewives of Atomic Lane. Both I highly, highly recommend. If you read them, I hope you enjoy them, and let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me.